Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome back to Pages and Perspectives. This is episode 6. So, what I want to talk about today, if you have kids that you've had to put in the school system, this one hits home because I've just put Nathan into second grade, and I want to talk about my experience with kindergarten and first grade and what's wrong with the school system. I'm sure a lot of you can agree that there's a lot wrong with the public school systems to the point where you don't want to send your kids anymore. You want to put them in private school or homeschool them. So, I mean, it's definitely a problem right now. And so Nathan, because he's been, he's medical and he's had a lot of obstacles where he couldn't start school the normal age as other kids have. So when we first got him, when he was around the age for kindergarten, we got this resource called Hospital Homebound. Hospital Homebound is a part of the Orange County public school system, but they work specifically with medical children and children with disabilities. So they were able to get Nathan a curriculum and teach him basic stuff for kindergarten. Now it's also paid through insurance, I believe. So he was only able to get a certain set time a certain number of days. So like it would be maybe 3 times a day or like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday for however long, like an hour or, whatever the schedule was. So it wasn't that much time he had, but at least he was getting some type of education to start because I didn't want him to fall behind. So he did really well with that and he got promoted to first grade. Now I'm like, okay, what's our next option? Next option was to put him in public school because he has not been around other children to interact, to socialize majority of his life. Now that he's a little bit older, now he's coming around and he's interacting with other children, especially at the daycare. It's a really positive thing for him right now. And a lot of my friends have had kids or having kids. So there's more children around nowadays. So it's definitely helping with his development. So I was like, well, let's put him in first grade in the public school and let him experience what that's like. Being around kids in the PPAC, it's still a daycare. So he's one of the older kids there. And I don't want habits from younger kids to continue with him because, if you don't see anything else, you tend to pick up the habits you're around. So I don't want him acting like a baby when he knows he's a big boy and he needs to be thinking and doing things like a big boy. So that was my idea to put him into an environment where he could see that there's kids like him of his age and how you should behave and how you should act and social interaction in that way. So got him registered with um, the school that we were zoned for and Hospital Homebound was still a part of everything. They helped coordinate everything I had to do. Now, this is the frustrating part about everything for me. So Nathan didn't start school for first grade. He didn't start in August like everyone else. He started in November because with Hospital Homebound, I have to coordinate with the school, with the nursing agency, because Nathan cannot attend school without a nurse. So had to take all of that into account and wait for them to set up a roundtable meeting. And I set it up with transportation, set it up with a lot of things. So transportation is like another moving part. So I have to keep that in mind when I'm coordinating things because he was only doing a half day. Between the hours, because he's never been in public school. So I was like, okay, I need to start him slow. Um, that way he can, get a test for the waters and see what it's really like and see if he really wants to, you know, if he takes to it. I really don't like pushing Nathan to do things if he doesn't show interest or want to do stuff. Because from our experience, if we push him to do stuff, he just doesn't want to do it and he's turned off and he never wants to do it again. So I have to take my time when it comes to doing new things with him. So it was a half day after coordinating all of that stuff. making sure there's a nurse on campus with him at all times because he's still G-tube dependent. And the nurse has to feed him at school. And, he can't be left unattended right now. He's not really he's independent, but he's not independent to the point where I can leave him to walk alone by himself around places. So those things were stuff I had to take into account when it came to him going to public school. And I was freaking out. I am a parent that's very involved and I communicate a lot. So between all of the parties that were involved, I'm like, we need to communicate, text me. I want to know when he leaves the school. I want to know when he gets to the daycare. I want to know who was in the car with him. I want to know what nurse, everything I wanted to know because I wasn't going to let them just pick my child up and just drive around town with him. There's so many kidnappings going on and so many issues happening. I just didn't want something else to happen because that stuff does happen. So, in that, Nathan started school and he was doing good. Um, you know, it was my first time, so I didn't really understand like what the nurses were allowed to do. The nurses that he had didn't really encourage like behavior. Like I really didn't know how they interacted with them because the school wouldn't let me know anything. So I'm like, how am I supposed to know his progress and what's happening if the nurse doesn't really tell me anything? I have to request them to give me daily notes in order to know what's going on. So I'm like, what is that? So that was already like concerning. I'm already scared that Nathan is not in my possession when he's traveling from school to daycare. And I'm already nervous that he's at a public school, knowing that Danny and I didn't have great experiences at public schools. So I'm like, why am I going to put my son in a position? The minute that I see things are going left, I'm not I'm not going to keep him in there. I'm not going to, you know, make him suffer in a sense to do his education when he can do it at home, or I can just find alternative ways to do stuff. So with that, he made some friends. He started in November, made some friends. We were able to attend the what was it? The field trip that they had. They went to the Charlie Brown Christmas event, some theater that they did. So I went and I was chaperone. Nathan's first field trip, my first time chaperoning because we had another kid, and it was a great time. I rode on the bus with them, packed Nathan's supplies. They did the event. Then they went and had a picnic on the lawn, like in the around the area, and it was really nice. And everybody was nice to Nathan, and they were helpful. And I talked with the teacher, and the teacher seemed nice. But after that, there came a point where all of a sudden his behavior is an issue. And I didn't understand what they meant by that because Nathan had been an independent child for a very long time, no other kids around him. Then he went to a daycare where there's kids younger than him. So he's picking up certain behaviors. And then we throw him into a classroom where there's kids of his age, but he's not behaving like them because he hasn't seen how a child of that age should behave. So it was really concerning. And, I was just unsure. So, the behavior thing was upsetting. So, but I'm very open. If somebody tells me something's going on with Nathan, I'm not going to shut it down and I'm not going to be like in denial. I'm going to try to see, I want to rule it out. So, if they're saying that Nathan had a behavior issue, I went to his doctor and I said, "Hey, doctor, do you think we should have a behavioral evaluation?" Doctor said no. Doctor didn't think so. And I was like, okay, cool, bet, because the school thinks that he has a behavioral issue. So it's more of training and monitoring and trying to encourage and redirect Nathan where he needs to be when it comes to his behavior in the classroom. They would complain that he would get up and take his shoes off and walk around the classroom during reading time. And so he wasn't hurting kids. He wasn't really disrupting the class. I think he was just getting bored. Whatever they were doing or whatever, and it was always a certain time every single day. He didn't just randomly get up during whatever time. It was always during like an 11 to 11:30 window. He would get up and start doing those things. So in my head, I'm like, okay, well, maybe we need to redirect him. He was getting pulled out to do classes. I'm like, why can't you pull him out during that time so he doesn't disrupt the other kids and so he's more manageable and you can still get him his education? That was like my thought. I was trying to figure out solutions on how to help, and everything just became the school just became really negative, and everything was pointing fingers. Oh, Nathan is this way and this way and this way. But let's back this up. This school has never dealt with a child of medical needs ever. They said that in our roundtable meeting. They're not used to this type of kid and they didn't have resources. They're now learning resources. So I'm over here asking and setting my expectations and what I think needs to be done. And they have no idea of what I'm talking about. They have to get back to me. They don't know. I hate a person that tells me I don't know. So, very, very interesting experience that I went through. And, Nathan, we took him out eventually because we took him out right before school ended. But in May, I ended up taking him out a little bit earlier because the behavioral thing kept getting a little too much. Like it was quite often and frequent. And then on top of that, the nurses were changing, the nurses were canceling. I couldn't even take him to school some days because of the nurse. His actual teacher told me, oh, if he has a runny nose and coughing, then he can't come to school. Okay, fair. But Nathan being medical, his runny nose and coughing is not the same. His anatomy is different. So his nasal passageway is just different. So that doesn't mean he's sick. And we tried to explain that to them and even have the doctor write a letter to give to the school. And they're like, oh no, we're fine. We never said that. I'm like, but I have it in writing that the teacher told me if he's that way, don't bring him. So it was a very confusing time. Like the teacher didn't like what she was doing. She was a little overwhelmed with Nathan because she couldn't keep up with him and the case and the class and the other students. And on top of that, the nurse was not helpful. She was also canceling. They had to change multiple nurses. So I'm like, what is going on? There's no organization. Nathan's not even in school from November to May. He wasn't even in school the full 5 days because some days the nurses would cancel. He can't go to school if there's no nurse. And then they tried to stick absences on me, talking about attendance and want to get like social family services involved. For what? His attendance, we explained that to you from the very beginning. In the round table, we said if he gets sick more often than a normal child. So if that occurs and we have to not bring him, is that held against us? So we asked those questions, but it's like they were like, "Oh yeah, sure, sure, sure." And then when the time came to apply what we told them, now they're like, "Oh yeah, no." Like they're acting like they don't know what we fucking said. So it was very frustrating, and I was like, I can't deal. So we ended up moving anyway, and we got rezoned. So now Nathan is going to his second year of school. So he's going to second grade. And I have a really positive outlook on stuff. The school that he's going to now, which is a new school, they're already organized. They already made things feel a little bit more better. They didn't have problems with nurses. They actually have kids with other medical issues that they've dealt with. So it gave me more confidence that okay, cool, like this is a school that may have more experience and it may be a better outcome, but all of our flags are raised because of that last school. At any time, things can change and be different. So as long as I can see what the issues are, I can look out for them. And now we do that. We look out for whatever the issues are. We try to be precautious as much as we can and plan and prep and be organized. Time management and prioritizing what needs to be done is super important for us. And that helps us function with everything. So him being in the school system for the first time was very scary and I was unsure, but I was excited because I wanted him to be normal in a sense. I mean, what is really normal? What is the term normal? But I wanted him to do what other kids in our community are doing, going to school, doing all the fun activities with school, parents being a part of PTA, going on field trips, making friends where you can hang out with them outside of school. Those were my thoughts. I wanted him to have what I had. And I think any parent would want that. So that's my little rant about school since Nathan's going back to school this week or next week. And, just my little thoughts on it. But thank you guys for listening. If you guys have any comments about your kids being in school, if you have any information to share about your kids in school or the school themselves, please share. There's something that you know that I may not know. So educate me too. So thank you guys for listening. This is Pages and Perspectives. Navi out.